Well, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Meet the Author. Today, I have J.L.Skye here with me. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
So excited that you can be here. Okay, first and foremost, I really like to start a lot of these author interviews with kind of an icebreaker question. Just get things nice, calm, get people ready. So I have to ask you, are you more of a pancake or waffle person?
I'm a pancake girl. I love pancakes.
I
Yeah.
think I used to be waffles, but for some reason, I've like really been craving I eat pancakes a lot more recently than I like ever did. So I think I'm changing.
Yeah. But it has to be strawberry jam. I have to have strawberry jam on them.
I have not tried strawberry jam. My normal thing is chocolate chips or blueberries. So maybe I'll try that. That sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's delicious.
All right, I'll have to take you up on that. Okay, so first and foremost, obviously for people who maybe don't know who is obviously JL Sky, kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, where obviously you are in Australia, so where you live, kind of where you're from, just a little bit of your story so people can get to know you a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. I'm from Australia. I'm from a town called Geelong. For those that follow along surfing, I actually live near Bells Beach, which is where the Rip Curl Pro Surf is held every Easter. Um, I I'm a mum and a wife, so I have 2 boys who are 11 and 9, who keep me very busy, and I'm also a teacher as well, so I actually teach primary school, which I think for you I teach grade 5, so I'm not sure if that's, middle school or maybe elementary school, I'm not sure what that is for you
Usually
guys.
elementary
Um
school.
Yes, yeah. That keeps me quite busy, and then I write part-time as well. So I generally have 2 full days to write, and then I write whenever I can fit it around the family and the schedule. So I'm also an hour from Melbourne, which is down the bottom of Australia, down in Victoria.
That's awesome. And I just every time I do one of these author interviews and people so many people, this is not their full-time job. I mean, there's some people that it is, but amount of people that are like, yeah, I teach, like you said, I'm fitting it in, or I do, X, Y, and Z, and then I just find time when I can write. It blows my mind how capable and like willing people are to be like, okay, I'm sitting down and I'm just gonna spend, stay up a little bit later on that I could sacrifice a little bit of my sleep to right. So I think that's so awesome that you do that. And how I was introduced to you is through the Blue Haven University, the university novel. So this was the
Yes.
first book in this new series that you sent to me, Wild Hearts Talk book, and what it was like for you deciding to go ahead and write this book and like the inspiration that kind of came from this novel.
Yeah, of course. Well, it actually started out from a uni assignment. I was studying creative writing as well as all those other things that I was doing. And Yeah, as I said, it started out as a uni assignment, and then I was like, there's actually a story here. And I love writing found family. I love having those close connections with the characters and their friends. I have a very close friendship group, so you know, I rely very heavily on my friends, and that's what I love about the found family trope. So I actually, um, with Ren and Brady, that story just developed from a little bit. I also struggle with my mental health, so I like to incorporate that into my stories as well. And when I sat down to write this, it it just came really organically, I guess, in that it went through some things that friends of mine have gone through, and then I was trying to find the positives and how I was able to help them through things that had happened to them. So that's sort of, I guess, where the story came from, and it just all built from there because as I started writing and I had those, side characters, I was like, "Wow, I can't wait to delve more into their story and build on this." So that's sort of where the idea of the series came from. And also my niece is really heavily into surfing. So and obviously, as I said, I live near Torquay where the, Rip Curl Surf Pro is held every year. So, um, yeah, I was really interested in that because I haven't seen a lot of surf romance either. So I just wanted to
No,
bring a little bit of that into it as well.
this is my first one, and I freaking loved it so much. I mean, it was so good. I liked the beachy aspect of it, but it was also it wasn't like a lot of times you read beachy romances and it's like a summery romance and oh like a weekend at the beach or a summer at the beach. And I liked that this was like their life. Like they lived here. This was, their surfing, their livelihood, things that were happening. So I thought that was awesome. And again, I loved the book. It was so good and I flew through it from start to finish. And I
Thank
think it's
you.
really important too that you have taken, some of those important people in your life. You said, you have a very close friend group, so you have your own found family. But I think that's awesome that you were able to include maybe some other people's stories and get voices and give them voices by, using characters and things like that in your book. So that's awesome. I have to ask you, when it comes to writing, you don't have a ton of time, like you said, you kind of squeeze it in where you can. Do you prefer to write at home or do you prefer to, maybe since you live, in Australia, it's pretty, you obviously are probably pretty close to a beach, I would assume. Do you like to go
Yes,
other
I am.
places to do your writing?
I do tend to do it a lot more at home. It's just a lot easier for me. Over summer when I was writing Wild Hearts though, there were some really beautiful days, that I did head down to the beach and did some writing down there, but predominantly it actually, yeah, working from home is just a lot easier for me. Yeah.
Okay. And so you have a new book in this series. So I don't have the physical copy of it yet. It's coming, but I know you have one if you want to
Yes.
show everybody what it looks like. So before you is the newest book in this series. Talk a little bit
Yeah.
about the plot for this and kind of what people can expect in the second novel. Maybe if they've already read Wild Hearts and this is their second time, jumping back into this world.
Yeah, of course. So we meet Jordan in Wild Hearts. He is Brady's best friend, and he's kind of the jokester of the group. He's a bit of a playboy. He doesn't take anything seriously, or that's how he comes across. And so when this book starts, he's actually going through his own trauma, and trying to come to terms with things that happened to him in the first book. And because of that, he's actually starting to fail out of some of his classes at university. Um, and then he is introduced to Ronnie, who is she's really like really studious, and she's so focused on her studies and getting to be where she is. They're both studying medicine, which is predominantly a male focused profession. So she's really like, I'm going to be the best in my class and I'm going to um, make it as far as I can, I guess. And so they're then partnered together by force. They don't have a choice. So they're partnered together to complete an assignment that is worth over half their grade. And she's really annoyed about it because she's thinking, why do I have to help this playboy surfer slacker boy who just doesn't care about his studies or whatever? But then he surprises her by actually knowing what he's talking about, and he's able to contribute, I guess. Um, but Ronnie actually has an ex-boyfriend who she walked in on cheating on her, and the only thing is he won't leave her alone. He's like, "You've got to forgive me. I stuffed up. I don't like whatever." But he gets very possessive and a bit stalkerish. So it gets a little bit darker in book two. And when Jordan sees this, he wants to help her because that's the type of person he is. He actually is really caring and loving and, bit of a cinnamon roll, I guess.
We love
And
Jordan.
yes, and she mentions this, that her housemate said, "Oh, maybe you could um, give your ex the hint by showing him that you've moved on." And she mentions it in passing, and then he steps up next time they see him together and he just goes, "Oh, you need to leave my girlfriend alone." And she's like, "What?" So then they enter into this fake dating relationship. And it's just so much fun because, like I said, with Jordan, when he's in, he's all in. And just some of the things that he does, I got so excited reading it. Sorry, got so excited writing it that I was just like, oh, I can't wait for people to read it. So I hope that that comes across when people read it because I honestly was getting myself really excited. It was a really fun writing process, and this book actually flowed out of me. Like, this was the quickest book I've written, because the story just told itself. So,
How fast
yeah,
did
it was
you write
really
it?
fun. Yeah.
How fast did you write this one?
Oh, sorry. This one was 4 months to write. Yeah,
Wow.
which is fast for me.
No, that's awesome. Again, I have never even written a book. I could not write a book. So I anytime someone's like, the fact that authors are able to sit down, pull out a story and like do that always blows my mind. That's incredible. And that's awesome that this one you said just kind of flows out of you. When you go to write, you said do you like to write at home and everything, but
Mhm.
I'm learning some kind of lingo in the author world that there's a lot of people that say they either are a plotter or they're a pantser. Do you find that you fall under one of those two categories or you may be somewhere down the middle? I've had a lot of people that have been more down the middle lately.
Yeah, I'm predominantly a pantser. I have an idea of where I want the book to go, and as I'm writing, I might go, "Okay, this I need this to happen in the book," so I'll write down some notes, but generally, I'm a pantser, and I just sit down and go, "Okay, where are you taking me today?" And it's so much fun. I love how organically the characters are able to tell their own story. That's my favorite part of it, and sometimes I'm like, "Whoa, wasn't expecting that," but it works.
That's awesome. So we talked a little bit of, how you said that you've used some of your friends and things kind of a little bit as inspiration for characters and things like that. Do you use that, more in a plot sense, or do you take some people from your real life that are kind of around you and decide to kind of write them in as characters or maybe just bits and pieces? How do you go about doing that in your stories?
Yeah, probably just bits and pieces, the friendship between Ivy and Ren, is very similar to, one of the my best friend now. So we sort of met while when we were younger, but didn't see each other very often. But now we are inseparable. So and there's little traits and things within the characters that you know are from my friends or my family, my sisters, my brother. I have written some young adult stuff under my real name, which is J.L.Skye. Um, and my first book that I wrote was my brother's journey playing AFL football, which is Australian rules football. Um, and a lot of things that he went through with that. So, and also that book dealt with some bullying in high school, and that was based off a lot of stuff that I went through. So, I do try to incorporate some um, real life things into my books, um, but just little traits that come into the characters, and yeah.
Okay, so for this one, you said you have other books obviously that you've also written. What was the deciding factor to decide to write under J.L.Skye for this series? What kind of was, all right, I'm going to switch maybe perspectives, or are you still writing under your real name too, or did you kind of switch everything over to J.L.Skye?
I've predominantly switched everything over to J.L.Skye purely because as I said earlier, I'm a teacher, and this is obviously moving more into the new adult um, area, and I just wanted to separate that because my students they love that they've got an author as a teacher, but I honestly, obviously, don't want them picking up things that are a bit more advanced for them. So that was probably the direction. But it's funny you ask because I'm doing an author talk at my children's school today, and I said to the boys, just remember, this we're talking about like mum's young adult stuff, so we don't tell everybody that mum's got another name. And my 11-year-old actually said, "Are you going to write more under your name that I can read, Mum?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I do have some other stuff that I will go back to with the young adult, but at the moment I'm focusing more on um, my new adult stuff, and then I'll just slot that in when I have time, when things start to settle down a little bit and I can focus more on my writing.
Hmm. So for Blue Haven, we'll kind of go back. Obviously we're focusing on this as J.L.Skye. So this
Of
was the
course.
first book in this series, and then obviously now you have the second book published. Do you have an idea of how many books that you are thinking of for the series? Maybe I see you nodding your head. All right, let me hear the number because I want to know this as a reader. I'm curious.
Yeah. So at the moment, I've got a plan for 4 novels. There is I did have an idea for a novella for one of the characters, um, but I'm not sure where that will fit into the series at this stage. So I've definitely got 4 with the main characters. So, obviously, book 1 was Ren and Brady's, book 2 is Jordan's, book 3 will be Ivy's, story, and that will actually have a really big redemption arc for the MMC, who is not who you will expect from book 1. So but it is somebody that
Wow.
you have met. Yes. So it's somebody that you've met and you will see them again in book 2, and yeah, there'll be a huge redemption arc coming there. And again, it's a bit like Jordan, you see a completely different side of him when you actually get his point of view. And then book 4 will be Harley's story. So again, it will be now that one will probably be a little bit darker. That will probably be
Mhm.
the darkest in the series, because there'll be ties to organized crime with his story as well. So um, yeah, and then the novella will probably take place over in Italy. So I don't know if that gives you a bit
Ooh.
of a hint about who that might be for. Um,
I get
but
a hint. I get a hint.
yeah, yeah. So I don't want to say too much because of what happens in book 1, but yeah, that's the plan at the moment. And then I have had a few people ask about side stories for characters such as like Felicity in book 1. So there might be some novellas, there might be some spin-offs, but at this stage there is 4 novels and then possibly 1 novella.
That's awesome. So I think this one, Wild Hearts, came out earlier this year. Or
Yes, that was what month
May,
are we
I
in? That
think.
was May. Yes.
May, and then you have your second book out now. Are you planning on trying to publish book 3 or book 4 for 2023, or do you think maybe that'll fall more in 2024?
I am hoping if I can find a bit more time to write, I am hoping to get book 3 out by September, October. And then I would be probably planning December's not a very good month to release books. Um, it, I don't know why, but it just tends to be the advice that December's not a good month. So I'm thinking that book 4 would be January or February next year.
Awesome.
So
Well, that
yeah.
makes me excited. If you decide to go with September, not putting any pressure out there, that just happens to be my birthday month. So
Oh, good to know. Well, we are going on a holiday, in September, so I'm hoping to have it done before then. So that's the plan at this stage, but we'll see how we go. And
regardless,
I've been
I'm excited for it.
yeah, I've also been told, by my editor, who's a lovely author herself over in the UK, the States. She's told me I'm not allowed to put her under pressure again because I had a book signing last week and I was trying to get this out before the book signing. So I was like, I need to have it edited by this date. And she was like, oh, okay, you haven't left me much time. So I'm under strict instructions. I have to give her more time this time. So I can do that, hopefully.
I can see where that can be a little bit stressful. I don't know too much. I see kind of a different side as a reader. I've been lucky enough to beta read a few books, and so like I know that's still technically like it's in the writing process when that's happening, but it's not like it's basically done at that point. But like little changes are happening, and then goes back and forth to the editor. So I can't even
Yeah.
imagine having to sit down and be like, all right, I gotta process all this, edit all those things really fast. So maybe a little bit more time next.
Well, that's actually good to know because if I'm not quite ready by October, by September, maybe you could beta read and still get to read it for your birthday.
Bring it on. I love to beta read things. I think I've like when the first time I was asked to do that, I was like, you trust me enough to okay. I love to do that, especially and it's one of my good friends who asked me to beta read. And so she was like, be so honest with me, be so
Yeah,
straightforward. Like, if you hate it, tell me you hate it now so that I can take one person saying they hate it versus thousands of people saying they hate it. And I was like, fair enough.
exactly.
But I didn't hate
Yeah,
it. I would probably not. I mean, I don't ever want to hate anybody's work either, but anyways, and I didn't
no.
hate this at all. I mean, I you sent this to me, I think around May, and I didn't pick it up fast enough. And then when I decided to, oh my gosh, I literally flew through it so fast because it has so many tropes that I love. The fact that it's like the best friend's brother, but then it's small town, and then like you said, found family. I love found family. Like I'm realizing that that's probably one of my like top things that I look for in books. It's so good, and I think that's so awesome that you included all of that. With more of this book, I guess, and everything, you have other books also. But could you possibly pick a favorite character that you have written so far? Or I know it's like asking authors to pick children. It's not a fair question, but it's a question I still have to ask
Yeah.
sometimes.
Do you know what? I honestly have to say, and it is hard. Like, I love all my characters for all different reasons, but Jordan was just he's just so much fun, like and I had fun writing him in book 1, so that's why I originally had Ivy's book coming out as book 2, and I was like, "Nope, nope, Jordan's here, he's ready to come, I'm ready to write him," and like I said, as I was writing, I was actually getting the giggles and being like, "Oh my god, this is so good, but I hope everyone else thinks this is so good as well," but then in saying that, the MMC in book 3 I was surprised because I actually wasn't gonna have him be the love interest, and it was actually my developmental editor. She was like, "So this is who Ivy has to end up with, and I won't accept anyone else." And then I was like, "That could actually work." So he's coming in a close second, but Jordan was probably I'd have to say he was my favorite to write.
Jordan is like the cinnamon roll, golden retriever, everything you want to love. Like, you know that he's going through stuff. And so you just want to like hug him the whole time. But like you said, his go to thing is to just be the life of the party and like a jokester and everything. So, literally, as I was reading book 1, every time there was a scene with Jordan, I was like, I just want to hug you.
I actually think and, like, he actually reminds me a lot of me when I was younger, like, that was me. I was the not I wasn't a party girl, but I was, like, that one that just, you know, I don't know how to explain it, but I just was there for everybody else, but I was the jokester, I wasn't the one that was, having boyfriends and stuff. My
Yeah.
husband is my first boyfriend, so
Oh,
and I didn't meet
wow.
him yeah, I didn't meet him till I was 20, so, you know, I I just see little bits of myself in his personality and things like that, so I don't know.
I love that. And I love that. I mean, that's most people cannot say that their husband or wife, is their first person that they decided to be with. So that's really special that you have that you can say too. I love that. That's so sweet and so
Yep.
cute.
17 years later, still together.
That's that's incredible. That's so awesome. I love just hearing that. It makes me so happy. So for people who again maybe haven't picked up, I guess we should talk about, I mean, this book. We kind of jumped into book 2 more since it's obviously the newer one that got published, but what can people when they pick up Wild Hearts look forward to? Maybe they're like on the fence or they haven't even heard about the series. What can they look forward to as they go to start this series and kind of jump into Blue Haven University?
Yeah, so, it centers around Ren and Brady, as I've said. So Ren actually didn't grow up in Blue Haven, but she summered there every summer since she was 12, and she was living across the road. Oh, sorry, not living, but holidaying across the road from Brady and Ivy and her became quite close, and she was secretly harboring a little crush on Brady. Um, but they don't. Nothing actually happens between them until she turns until the summer that she turns 17, but then she has to go home and she's going through year 12, and things happen in Brady's life as well that sort of send him off on a bit of a spiral as well. So uh, they sort of fall apart in that year where she's gone back to do year 12, and then she moves back the following year for university, but she's not the same girl that she was. So um, it's all about surviving trauma. So there are triggers. People can either reach out to myself, or they are on Amazon. Um, that there are triggers in this book, but it's all about surviving that trauma and being able to confide in loved ones, find that strength. And that's what I love about Ren as well, is that she's not just someone that needs to be rescued, even though she has been through some things, and um, Brady does want to sort of come in and find out what's going on and try and rebuild their relationship. She doesn't need that. She just needs to know that people are in her corner, um, and that's enough for her. So that's what I love about her. So the tropes are small town, surf romance, best friend's brother, second chance, but it's not a second chance that happens 10 years down the line. So there is only about 10 months between that second chance. It's always been you, which is another one of my favorite tropes, and found family and who did this to you. So yeah,
So
it's
good.
it's it's an emotional roller coaster, which is what I love to read myself and write. But it does put your heart back together. I can
I
always promise your heart will be put back together.
By the ending, I know I was getting like it's like right after the halfway point a lot of times, and I was like things started happening, and I was like, "Oh no, oh no!" I was
Yeah.
going through it, but it's again great book.
And
I thought it was so good.
yeah, and my other thing that I like is I don't like the third act breakup. So you will find, even if the characters um get together earlier in the story or whatever, I really don't like the third act breakup. So there's generally something that happens that they need to get through together. So, or something that will strengthen their relationship. So
I
that's
think that
also something you'll get from me, because I know some people like that third act breakup and some people don't. So, yeah.
not a third act breakup person. If it's done with intention and like it makes sense, like okay, this really had to happen to like push the story forward. I'm okay with that. But when it's like the miscommunication thing that it's like, oh, I could have just, walked away and hurt my feelings, but instead we're gonna break up over it. I'm like, really?
Yes. Yeah.
Not a fan of that. So, I love that there's, not there's things that have to be resolved, like throughout the book for the relationship, but it's not. I appreciated that. I noticed it when I was reading it. I was like, yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, as we kind of get towards the end here, wrapping up, where can people find you best if they want to, get all your, I know, TikTok stuff, Instagram, all those things? Where can people find you and access you the most easiest?
Yeah, of course. So I actually don't have a website as yet. That's still in in the process of getting made. So I am really active more on the socials. So TikTok and Instagram. My tag is just at J.L.Skye _author. And that's probably the best place for you to reach out to me. And I've got my link tree listed in both of those as well. So, uh, yeah, that's probably I do have a Facebook group as well, but that's just new. Again, that's just under J.L.Skye. So they're probably the three places at the moment that people can reach out to me and find information on my books and things like that. And I'm always willing, I love interacting with readers or potential readers, even other authors who are aspiring to be authors. I'm always happy to have a chat and talk about my process and what I've been through and pay it forward. So,
That's awesome. That's so sweet that you do that. And you can obviously get a paperback like I have here, or I read it first on my Kindle. So it's on Kindle Unlimited, paperback. That's awesome that you have all of those ways for people to be able to get this book. I think it's so good. And I can't wait, hopefully, for book three. either September or October. I will take whatever. But I'm just excited to continue to read more in this world. Is there anything else maybe that we didn't talk about today that you want to let people know or just kind of say before we go here at the end?
The other thing that I do as well is I have playlists for all of my books as well. So I do Spotify playlists, which have there's a QR code at the start of each book so that you can listen to them. And I like to a lot of it will be indie musicians as well. So I find a lot of musicians on TikTok and Spotify, and I love having their music on my playlist as well and getting their sounds and things out to people because it's generally the vibe of the book. So,
That's
yeah,
awesome. That's really cool that you do that. Well, thank you so much again for being willing to come on here today and chat about your books. I had so much fun. And like I said, I'm so excited for what's to come in this series and beyond and everything else that you have going on. And again, just thank you so much for taking the time to do this today.
thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited and yeah, it was great.
And you guys make sure that you are saying subscribe to my channel to see all of the author interviews to come and more book reviews and recommendations, hauls, and more. And until next time, thanks, guys.